And welcome along to Matthew Brawler's PvP channel. This month we are chatting shit about the Brewer Cup, and we've got a gym division special this time round with with my fellow slow bro Jay, my fellow Lather-ish Lewis, and fellow gym division mascot and Spice Lord second in command, Jan.
Hello.
How we all doing, folks?
Good, man. Yourself?
Pretty good.
And obviously, you can't not introduce yourself as like the captain of our.
Well, yeah. Captain. I love the respect that you show from the guys. I really do appreciate that. I've been very proud of what we achieved in Cycle 1. Clawing our way up from the bottom, and then we're now in open. So yeah, all fun and games going forward this week. But yeah, very pleased with the team and exciting times. But yeah, we're not here to talk about Twilight, which I'm sure Jan would be loving, and we're not here to talk about Comet. We're here to talk about the Brewer Cup. Now that he's got his swords, the Brewer Cup. Yes, that's right, the Brewer Cup. And of course the 6 slots. We're going to go in weight order, as is appropriate this month, and we're going to start off with Jan's pick. Let's see if he remembers the Pokédex entry.
Okay, so as is tradition, I try to pick something a bit more unusual, sometimes daft, some might say, sometimes XL, and this is not the case today, I'm afraid. I'm going to be eschewing my XL shenanigans. So today I've decided to go with something which I think some people often overlook, just generally speaking in the Great League, and go with Pokédex number 494, or if you're a Gen 5 enthusiast, Pokédex number 0. The victory Pokemon, weighing in at 4 kilograms, it is of course Victini. Now, mythicals, man, right? Like, just they're these little beasts that just want to look like they're just here to have fun, but at the moment's notice, they're going to crush you. And that's exactly what I think that Victini can do in this particular meta. The way that it looks to be shaping up, it's got a really unique kind of, type combination in Fire and Psychic. The move pool as well, Confusion is the fast move. We already know how oppressive that thing can be. And then, of course, the charge moves. We'll get to the creme de la creme in a moment. But of course, you can run Overheat. You could run Psychic. You might not want to run Focus Blast here, to be honest. But you know, maybe you do. But I mean, the real reason that we're all going to be using Victini, well, some of us might be using Victini, is V-Create, and just V-Create is just such an oppressive charge move when you combine it with Confusion. There's just so much pressure from Victini, and it's no slouch when it comes to damage as well. Like those Confusions add up. Like as we already know, with long-term moves, timing then becomes a much bigger issue. It's not a 5-turn Incinerate sneaking through, but still a Confusion sneaking through is pretty devastating in terms of extra energy. And you get to V-Creates pretty quick. You get to them in terms of, I think the first one's 4 and the second one's 3, which is pretty nasty. Hits like a truck. Usually you're going to get a shield. You have to respect the V-Create. Even if you're resisting that move, you're going to get a chunk away from you. And it's just really what I really like about it in a meta where like counter users are going to be pretty big. You of course resisting counter there, and you're in a lot. Well, if you're up against the fight, you're doing super effective. But against things like Vig, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on it. Then you've got potentially, depending on how the meta is shaping up, if Charm becomes a big thing, well, Fire's giving you that Charm resist. Okay, you're not the bulkiest thing in the world, but again, resisting a little bit of damage is great. Being able to throw those V-Creates back is pretty awesome, even though you do get the defense drop. But I mean, Victini's not a massive bulk monster anyway, so... but I think it's just that combination of moves which really gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do, and just what you can do with it is pretty insane as well. For example, depending on the move choice that you go, so if you run V-Create Overheat, for example, you end up with a Psychic type Confusion user that can beat Obstagoon and Melmetal.
Right, so that was my question, because you've got a lot of bit of steel types which are going to resist your confusion, and of course there's not many dark types. Obstagoon's the one that comes to mind, again resisting the confusion. So the fact it can beat Obstagoon and Melmetal, that's impressive.
Pretty silly, to be honest. I mean, of course, you have to pilot it correctly. It's never as straightforward as just clicking V creates and off you go. And there's a little bit of nuance to it. But just the fact that that is on the table as a potential win that you can get is just like, if you know how to pilot it correctly, those people, if they throw in Melmetal, if they throw in Obstagoon against you, if they're running Obstagoon in that slot for whatever reason. Yeah, but like
you said it's not tanky. Can it win anything in zeros? Like, can it take a Rock Slide? Could it take a Night Slash?
So let's have a quick look at the things that would be able to take usually. So let's look at Machamp, for example, who's probably going to, well, maybe that's not a good idea. But I can see how much damage it would do very quickly if I'm looking at the right thing. Oh, actually, it loses to Machamp Shadow, but that's a Shadow one. Most people probably win Shadow. So from a Machamp, Shadow does 107. Wow. So it's not, and the non-Shadow does 90 damage from around an average of 129 HP. So it's about three quarters, just over 3/4. So yeah, it's
so in theory, could you confusion that down and then throw V creates into whoever comes in?
In theory, yeah, I think that's probably what you're looking to do. Like if you've got shields, or if you come in late game with shields, it's going to be an excellent kind of like closer. Even early on, I've used it as a lead in a couple of like practices, and like again, even if you're in a bad lead, I led with it into a Sableye before. Like I get a shield. If I sneak the confusion through, I can get there a bit faster. I'm going to be switching out anyway, so I throw that V create. Sableye's not going to like the V create, so you're probably going to get that shield back, and I've got a bit of energy for later, and kind of maneuvering around is pretty good. So it can work in a number of ways. Again, it's just getting used to what it can and can't do. There's, like I said, big powerhouses. Like Machamp is probably a bad example to think about Rock Slides, but it can take some hits, but it's not. You're not thinking about it in terms of I want this thing to stick around. I want it to kind of come in and do maximum damage. Just as kind of to illustrate, again, I've talked about overheat being a big thing. Where if you're running Psychic, for example, you can pick up a win over Wing Attack Mantine, which is a pretty big deal. So I think Mantine's going to be pretty popular.
Yeah, I mean, you actually considering overheat, or because like obviously V creator is just such a decent fire move anyway. Like, would you want the coverage with the Psychic or?
So I think the overheat does net you different wins compared to Psychic, and I think it's about the problems that you think you're going to face. Like for example, if you're running the all fire, like this is if you're running all fire, then you like pick up things like Melmetal and Obstagoon. But if you run Psychic, then you can actually get a win condition over Coffin, which is pretty big. So I think Coffin's a pretty big choice here.
Yeah.
You can also, just like looking at wands, overheat gets you Dugong, whereas that becomes a slight loss with Psychic. So overheat actually loses to Galv, but you can pick that up with Psychic. I should probably look into that one a bit more, but don't have time. Psychic gets you Kingdra if people are going to want to run Kingdra, which someone probably will because people are degenerates.
Hey. Kingdra's awesome.
Kingdra is awesome.
Maybe not in this meta, but it's still fucking awesome.
No. Now here's the one that you're going to really like. Overheat Victini can beat Whiscash in ones.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, I'm sure I've seen a sim where it can beat it once. Because I've ran it before it might have been a draft or something like that, but yeah.
It's crazy. Like with overheat, it can also beat Stunfisk, and it can also beat Dragalge. Just because of so V create is does really hit really hard, but I think the base power of overheat is slightly large, and it gives you that KO power, which is just kind of insane. Like,
and you're not dropping your defense even, are you?
Yeah. So you're going to get to that last move as well. So, and also, even if you went, I mean, there'd be some situations where you could call this, I suppose, but if you went overheat first and drop your attack, V creates are still going to hurt. Overheat will still hurt, even with a dropped attack. It's kind of like looking at like Leaf Storm with Roserade.
It's like Leaf Storm, yeah, with Roserade. Yeah. Second one still, it's better than a Power Whip or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. You know, people think, oh no, I've lost a lot of attack, but it still hurts. And you know, the base attack of Victini is there's no slouch there either. So you know you're going to notice it. So I think there's a lot of really kind of interesting wins that you can pick up there. A lot of pressure, like from the off in some cases, because everyone knows that V-Create is definitely coming at some point, and you have to respect it, to be honest. And there's a lot of really unusual wins you can pick out there as well, which you know, again, if you're not used to facing it, which I think many people aren't, because it hasn't really seen a surge in popularity in GBL or anything like that, then you might come into it thinking, oh yeah, I've got this, I know how to get my way around this, and then you could be in for a nasty surprise. So I think it's a really fun pick. I've had great fun running it in some practice, and I think there's some real viability there, depending on where the meta goes, and even with, you know, probably some ghosts being more popular than others, that does cause problems. But ghosts don't like V-Create or Overheat either. So
here's a question for you, Jan. How do I beat you then? So if it can beat Wishcash, it can beat you, Fisk. How do I beat it?
Crawdon.
Let's have a look at that.
How long? You had 10 minutes.
So if we let's actually have a look at this. Crawdon should beat it, and I'm going to be.
I would be very upset if the Dark Water didn't beat the Psychic Fire. I would be very upset.
Yeah, it definitely. So it definitely wins in no shields, obviously. Is there any win cons whatsoever? No, not really, to be honest. So yeah, Crawdon's.
And this is why we run Focus Blast.
I don't think that's going to help you either.
Imagine it overheats enough, it's just not going to get to it.
Yeah.
You probably actually, yeah, that's the thing. So V-Create still does over half health of being resisted, which is just silly. But yeah, I think probably the biggest one that a lot of people are going to think about is Vilus. Like, Vilus is a huge pick. For like,
I think as we're recording this, it's rank 3 on PvPoke.
Yeah, and I think it's not necessarily. I don't think it's up there because of
counter users.
Well, yeah, counter users is a big thing, but I don't think it's necessarily because of the breadth of wins that it gets. I think it's the quality of the wins that it does get against certain like things that can be quite big. So yeah, there's going to be some popular stuff which I'm not going to turn this into about as Vilus pick, but I think it's not. It's still high because where it does win and what it does win against is quite a big deal. Even though there are some big things floating around which are gonna beat it. But yeah, like Vilus is Vigoroth can, depending on what move Victini is running. So it's not a viable counter. You've also got like Snorlax is a big one. Sableye just nails it. It just outpaces with the foul play.
In them kind of scenarios, that you're probably just looking to take the shields and.
Absolutely, and that's also.
I've just lost my Pokemon.
Exactly, and that's why I really like Victini. Is that I'm going to get value out of it, even if I'm in a losing matchup, because, like I say, most of the attacks, other than I guess Psychic, really, that it's going to throw, even resisted, are going to do a massive chunk, and that could be enough to flip another matchup and give me a farm down or something like that. So it's a great utility mon in that sense, because like, it's going to do massive damage, or it's going to get shields, or if I get it with a shield, like in the closing finishing. Like, you know, most time GG's like, you know, I'm gonna kind of just rail through you. So yeah, obviously it has answers, and there's going to be some popular answers, but as Jay says, like sometimes it's not about steamrolling through. Sometimes it's about creating awkward situations for your opponent, right?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I'm sold. I best get some rare candies and some Stardust.
What are you looking to like pair it with? Then what do you reckon goes well with?
So I think it's because of its role as being quite utility. Right? You can pair it with a lot of things, to be honest. Like, you know, if you're going in there saying I just want to create shield advantage for something, you know, stuff that has quite a lot of like you know, spammy moves. I guess like Vig's quite a good one in terms of I don't want to kind of like big up Vig anymore, but if you're thinking I'm going to have to deal with dark types, then obviously Vig deals with it quite well. I guess things also actually Sableye's probably quite good as well. Like as a good, because Sableye's just a monster safe swap anyway. We're thinking that probably Cofagrigus or Cofagrigus or whatever you want to call it.
Well, especially, I mean, if you've smashed through a shield or something with Victini, and then you're switching in your Sableye with a shield advantage. Unless it's a
you're getting switched. You're getting switched there, yeah.
Like
it needs to.
You need like a dedicated answer there, otherwise things are going to go very badly for you. This is what I also really like. So and even again, like even if you get a shield and you end up in a kind of a bad matchup with Sableye because they have brought the counter, then you just bring Victini back, and it's going to be back at that V create very, very quickly. And I guess whatever's going to be there is not going to like it either. So you might get that. You might get the second shield. You might not have to spend any shields depending on how you're playing, and you've got a 2-0 in the back maybe.
Yeah,
there's so many ways that you can play it, and I think that's again that slot 1, and what I've been looking at it to me. Feels like actually there's quite a lot of picks there, which could be either utility or in what I've looked at it for is maybe anti-charm and anti-fighter there. There's quite a lot of like big picks that I think could fill that role quite nicely. And Victini seems to kind of do like anti-fighter, anti-charm, but also bring that kind of utility shield pressure that I think some of the other picks can't do. They can either do one of those other roles or they don't really have the same kind of pressure. And not like, and like, I guess maybe Haunter, but then Haunter's made of paper. So so you have that kind of
couple of confusions and it's gone anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The ghost that cannot really beat psychics properly.
No, I'm very happy with that. Any final thoughts on victory Pokemon before we move on to something else?
I hadn't considered Overheat before. I like the idea of you've got a choice. You can either run it as a lead and V-create and dip, or you can use it as a closer and Overheat. I like that idea.
That's why I really like, again, like having so many viable movesets will keep like. Some people probably won't even know what movesets it can run other than V-create, right? As well, because like people don't really use it. Like I think maybe when it was popularized a little bit in a GBO line, I think it was running Focus Blast. So maybe
Focus Blast, Psychic, Overheat, V-create. What else? Is that it?
That's it. So you don't have to spend many charge TMs as well, which is great. But I'd say like that kind of having the ability to have Overheat, and even if it's running the double fire. I mean, we've seen what Kanto Ninetales can do with Weatherball Fire and Overheat as an option. So that's a pretty nice option to have. So that's why I like that as well. So.
Yeah, luckily that's in a different slot, so you're not competing for slot 1. But yeah, Kanto Ninetales, bit of a tangent. It's a nice slot 2 pick, but would have been too easy for me to pick that today. Right, shall we move on to out of the 2 slot 3s that we've got? Shall we go for the lowest Pokédex number? So I think Lewis being a very low Kanto. Yes, I said Kanto correctly. At least I'm not talking about Raichu this time around. Lewis, do you want to take it away?
No, not Raichu this time. My pick is Pokédex number 18. It is a welterweight, tipping scales at 39.5 kilograms. It is Pidgeot. Now,
I like pigeons.
In general or in this matter?
Well, just you shit everywhere, don't you?
I always.
But no, I do like Pidgey, but I'll let you take it away. I'm guessing
I
the
just think of
reasons you like
the Devo sketch from years ago. He beats a pigeon and people scream at him, like, "I'm fucking dead anyway, mate." Anyway.
Yeah, I like the
so
analogy.
Pidgeot, we knew it was broken at one point. Go on.
I like the analogy of it shitting on everyone. I quite like that. It's obviously got a lot of things that are going to hard counter it. Your rocks and things like that. It's going to do very little against. But the things it is going to do well against are quite a lot of the popular picks. Things like ghosts like Cofagrigus and Vigoroth. It loses the 1s, but the 0s and 2s are very, very comfortable. Pretty much any other fighter. I see it as like a little bit of a core breaker sort of thing. But you can also use it in different ways. Like obviously it's the first Silph Cup you've been able to use it in, apart from the one it was banned halfway through. Since it's got Feather Dance. And I like the idea of, yes, it's going to do very, very badly against rocks and steels and things like that, even though is a really, really odd one. It actually beats Jirachi in the ones. If you get a Feather Dance and then Brave Bird it, you survive with like 3 health, but it's a very, very odd matchup. But I like the idea of, say if somebody does bring an ice or a rock into it, you can Feather Dance it until you die and waste no shields whatsoever. And you come in with something that really hard counters it, that's going to take absolutely no damage whatsoever. You come in with like a Shadow Machamp or a Whiscash or something like that, and you gain so much energy off it that the next thing that comes in, it doesn't matter whether it's going to resist it or not. Nothing wants to take a Rock Slide from a Shadow Champ or a Blizzard from a Whiscash. And so it's a different way of using it than you would think, rather than just using it as an anti-fighter, anti-ghost. What? Down, cat. He's a little bit skittish at the moment because there's fireworks going.
You're stroking your pussy on the chatting shit. You know, it's allowed. It's allowed. I mean, Jay's naked. It's fine. It's completely fine. It's completely acceptable. We're pushing boundaries on Matt's channel today, so it's fine.
I'll put a top on.
No, don't you dare. We want to see your nipples, mate. Your job's coming good. Your job is coming good.
Show off your pigeons.
Speaking of pigeons, do you want to show now? Do you want to show now, Jay? Do you want to show now?
I don't really want to show it, man.
Oh, it's beautiful.
No, for the YouTube audience, he was loving it. Yeah, he was loving it.
Yeah. I was licking my nipple and everything earlier.
He's got a big tattoo of a phoenix, and it's the colours just got up to his nipple today, so he's looking good. Yeah.
And they coloured it in, which was painful. So there you go.
Twit-twoo. Pushing boundaries.
Tit-twoo.
Take that, man. Getting censored by YouTube. Where's your YouTube money now, Matthew?
Looks a lot better than my pigeon.
I like Pidgeot. I'm not seeing many rocks. I'm not seeing many electric types, and the odd steel type here and there. So I think it's hitting 4, maybe 5 of 6 picks, even if it is picks. So I like Pidgeot. Like you said, ghosts mainly. Everyone's got Coffin, everyone's got Vig, or at least early practice. We're seeing those two together, especially in the usage stats at the moment. Machamp, I think that's right up there in usage. I think we had a cup the other day where it was using 15 of 25, and of course it's high in the Silph usage stats as well. I think Pidgey or a Flyer is a good shout here. Any thoughts, Jay? Jan?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I've got a rank 1 sat there. I'm sure pretty much most people will have, to be fair, because it's just accessible.
It's a Pidgey. It's everywhere. Yeah. I've got a rank 0 as well, which I'll never use. But
I actually don't think rank 1 because when Pidgey's ever sport, it's always partly cloudy, so they're always weather boosted. So I've got a rank 26 and I've got a rank 46 for very specific reasons.
Probably wins CMP. So
you know, come at me, bro. I've got
I'll feather dance you first.
I've got a play with Victini, I guess, in like the sense that you've got an oppressive fast move, and then you've got like charge moves that hit hella hard as well with your Brave Bird. Even you're saying like you beat Jirachi, for example, landing the Brave Bird. So like even that's a steel type, it resists it, still doesn't want to get by a Brave Bird. So
and you can use it in like a similar way to Victini. You can lead it and Brave Bird and dip if you wanted to as well. That's an option.
Yeah.
I think
Could you imagine chucking it in on Switch and you're expecting them to think it's a Feather Dance, and they've got a tanky mon that they've brought in, say Lapras, and they haven't Feather Danced, they've Brave Birded. That would be fun. No? Or it goes completely wrong. I don't know.
I don't think it would do enough. You'd need it to kill to warrant doing that. Otherwise, you don't get the benefit of reducing its attack to nothing, so you can't farm it down.
Yeah, you give them a Lapras.
Lapras is tanky. Yeah, Lapras is tanky. Okay.
Some things that'll work against others.
Here's a fun thing about the Lapras matchup. You lose, but you only just lose if you just go straight Feather Dance.
Yeah.
Which that's the play.
Yeah.
There's other things like that, like Steelix is a very, very, very narrow loss in the 2s. Just straight Feather Dance.
Well, what that just tells me is that if I Feather Dance once and you don't take the bait, I can just keep Feather Dancing until you take that bait, and then I'll Brave Bird you. Like, that's nuts.
I don't like that. Can I change my pick?
Too late.
Yeah, I think I love Pidgeot. Like I played with it a little bit in Kanto. It's super annoying. It's very, very oppressive. Wins matches that it shouldn't because of Feather Dance is one thing. But as I alluded to before everybody else got into the chat here, I was potentially going to pose a slightly awkward question.
Go on.
Or a slightly different way of thinking, which is why I have 2 Pidgeots built. So have you given any thought to wing attack Pidgeot?
I'd considered it, but when you're running Feather Dance, it's a bit like when you're running like a Poison Fang. You want a fast move that's at least going to do a decent amount of damage at the same time. If you're not going to be doing a lot of damage with your charge attacks, you need your fast attacks to be doing a decent amount of damage, and wing attack just doesn't cut it in that sense, whereas Gust does.
And if you sneak a Gust in as well.
Yes.
True, but I think
go on, Jan. What matchups are we talking here with wing attack then?
So I'm looking at wing attack here, and I'm not thinking about it as either necessarily as one's better than the other. I think they actually serve very different roles here. So you're saying about Gust Pidgeot losing to Vigoroth in ones, well, wing attack beats it fairly comfortably. Also
in all 3.
Yeah. You can beat Celio in ones. I think Celio is a pretty sleeper pick as well, especially with like an ice type with Powder Snow, which is pretty. I mean, again, also Pidgeot we have to remember is a very boom and bust Pokemon, with sometimes landing the Feather Dance. But it's like with Bubble Beam Pokemon, right? But having that option there is always nice. So yeah, you lose some matchups like the Gust obviously picked up, but you pick up ones that Gust can't do. So like Kingdra, you win as wing attack, which is I would think is pretty nifty. You pick up Ninetales. Golbat, if anyone's looked at Golbat as in that particular slot, I think Golbat can be pretty huge, just in what it can do. And yeah, you outrace it with wing attack. Guess what? Wing attack can beat Excadrill.
What?
Yep. Very. So again, this is what I mean. I think there's beats Dragalge as well, which is also pretty cool. And Rainy Castform. Which is why I'm playing devil's advocate and saying, what do you want your Pidgeot to do? So I think it's very much a team comp thing, and I just want
So either way, whether you do go Gust or wing attack, it's a solid pick.
Yeah, but I think it's something to consider depending on what you want. Like if you actually the rest of your team comp comes up, like what do I need to deal with, or indeed what the meta starts to look like more broadly as the weeks go on. Well, I guess weeks as the month goes on, you might start seeing that. Well, actually, if people aren't going to expect me to bring a wing attack Pidgeot, I'm going to flip some matchups here. If I start to see things popular, because I think there's some stuff on there which could be popular. But again, there's stuff on there which is going to be popular, which Gust take care of. So I just wanted. I'm just playing devil's advocate a bit there. I'm just being a bit naughty. So
I can't remember which matchup it was, but it was mentioned to me by Matthew himself that there is only one matchup that Pidgeot wins with Gust and Aerial Ace.
Wow.
Not Feather Dance. Not Feather Dance. Not Feather Dance. Not Brave Bird, but it needs Aerial Ace. I'm looking to beat something. I don't think it's Vig. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My question was, have you found it?
I'm looking for it now.
My question, Lewis, is what about Noctowl? Does Noctowl do the same job? Because with Pidgeot having full flying moves, Noctowl has that wing attack, sky attack, plus coverage, whether it's Psychic or Nightshade.
Nightshade.
Yeah, that
Nightshade. We're throwing shade on Nightshade. But yeah, like, what's your thoughts on Noctowl?
Yes, they're both normal flyers, but they're very, very different. Obviously, Noctowl's a hell of a lot bulkier. And so it's going to get used in a different way. And the coverage moves, yes, say if you went Psychic's obviously clearly the better move, but it's still going to do nothing against steals.
I think that's
and Nightshade, even though it's not resisted, still does nothing against steals. Whereas even though Pidgeot has got all flying and they're still not going to do nothing against steals out, you still got the advantage of knocking its attack down to nothing and then coming in and farming it with something else, whereas you couldn't do that with Noctowl.
Yes, you can play yourself into an out kind of thing, can't you?
Yeah.
With it. Cool.
Nice. Shall we move on?
I think Brewer's lying. I can't find any combination.
You'll have to
comment below and ask Brewer what is that one matchup where Pidgeot needs Aerialace to beat him. Any final thoughts on Pidgeot, or shall we move on to the other welterweight?
Just think it's a great pick as an alternative for that slot, given that how competitive that slot is. I think
that's the only issue with it, is that slot 3. There are a lot of very, very strong picks in that slot 3. You're giving up quite a lot to pick it. But playing devil's advocate, say if your heart's set on using something like Diggersby, you've got this cash available in another slot. If your heart's set on having a counter user, there's counter users in other slots that will vigor off. So it's one where you have to build your team around it rather than just sticking it in as like a 6-mon in a team.
Yeah. Slot 3 is very competitive, isn't it? Diggersby, Vig, Obstagoon.
All these ones I haven't even looked at.
But you have to remember
there's loads in that slot.
Politoed. Politoed.
Yeah, I think
Weatherball, man.
Yeah.
Pelipper.
Let's not forget though that Weatherball did get nerfed, so it's not as.
Yeah.
But I only provide like 5 damage.
Skuntank.
Well, anyway, my pick is also welterweight in slot 3.
And it's so meta, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so obviously Lobster was so last season, so it's time for some squid.
You do like a bit of seafood. You do like a bit of seafood,
yeah. So mine's Pokedex number 687, and it's Malamar. So it's PV Poke rank 148 as well for the Brewer Cup. Comes in at a 60.35 kilograms in the welterweight division. It's Psychic Dark typing. Which is pretty cool. It's only got a couple of weaknesses, being Bug and Fairy, and it resists Psychic as well. So it's quite a neutral mon, I think, overall, because it's only got like the 2 weaknesses and the mon resistance. So it's an interesting one to use. I've enjoyed playing around with it. I've used it in many different team comps, and yeah, it's quite fun. I've tried. It's got some interesting moves as well. So it's got Psycho Cut, so it charges pretty fast. Access, Fire Play, and Superpower. And if you're feeling a bit spicy, Hyper Beam, which I don't actually recommend. I did try it, and it's fun landing a Hyper Beam always, but it's not stab. And sometimes it was like a double Fire Play or a double Superpower would have been better in that situation. Like the stats overall across like the shields, like even shields, aren't actually amazing. Which I only looked before, like, because I haven't used PvP much this season. And getting back into it now, I've picked a Pokemon where in the 2s it only has a 54% win rate. In the 1s it only has a 58% win rate. And then the 0s it has a 63% win rate. But if you give it one Psycho Cut, yeah, well, if you give it one Psycho Cut advantage, it jumps up by like between 8 and 13% across all the shields. But if you give it a shield advantage, that's when it's mad. So it's like 90% with a 2-to-1. and at 92% with a 1-0 shield advantage. Literally the only thing that beats it then is like fairies and a couple of bugs. It's just mad. It spams out moves really quickly. I think I've caught out quite a few people because they just don't realise how quick it is to its charge move. And obviously you've got like the opportunity you can superpower and dip, bank some energy. So I think the best way of using it, of the way I've come across it, is when you're leading it, is you charge up a hell ton of energy, throw a move, get out of there, and then it comes back in later on in towards the end game because it just pressures shields because it's spammy. It still hits like quite hard, and like the coverage moves on it hits so much, and it loses to some things which is really annoying. So like doesn't quite get over the line to Frostlass, because it just doesn't hit it hard enough. But if you give it the Psycho Cut advantage, then it becomes an easy matchup. You win that. So there's little nuances to it like that with the energy. So it's definitely an energy management kind of Pokemon. But it's got some good wins with like, you know, these boss Pokemon that Matt goes on about with like Jirachi and Lucario.
Because Lucario's going to be mega this month. Yeah.
It unfortunately beats Crawdon, which was annoying. But also beats things like Lapras. But actually, it only beats regular Lapras. Doesn't beat Shadow. Shadow hits too hard. But like things like Awak, Toxicroak, Abomasnow. One that I stuck in here randomly was Alola Mola. Now, I'm not saying this is a popular pick, but that's a tank. And like Malamar is not like it's not squishy. It's like it's mid range in the tanks, but like
it must just outpace it. It must just outspam it.
It does. But that's amazing because it's just but it's just like it's an impressive move waterfall, and it's still like it was just like I just didn't think it was capable of taking out something like a Alola Mola, which is pretty cool. But like obviously, I said your Frostlass is close. Diggersby is also a really close one. Ivy dependent / one Psycho Cut. Yeah. Whiscash, Vigoroth as well. They're all like 4, 9, 7, like, and they're rating for PvP, so they're all, you know, you sneak.
It's a risky mon. I can see why you've picked it. It's a risky mon.
It's dead fun. It's been dead fun to use. But then it loses against like your Ghost, which is, even though it's obviously it's got the Dark type, but because it's got the Psychic type as well, it becomes neutral. Even though you've got your foul play to hit back, it just doesn't do quite enough. So it has frustrating moments where it's like things where if you're up against like a Sableye or whatever in the league, for example, like you definitely want to dip out of there because you're not going to win it in the end. Like, but if they don't know that doing, because you're going to get to your moves quicker than they are. So most of the time they'll panic shield, and as soon as you get that shield advantage, you just get out of it. And I think that's the way I've tended to use it, is secure myself a shield advantage, dip, and then it comes back in late game, and then it finishes off. So yeah.
So if it does well with shield advantage, you're going to use it with a mon that gains that shield, yeah?
Oh yeah.
So Victini plus Malamar?
Honestly, right, I was looking at it before when he said Victini, because I was actually saying like stuff like, you know, K9 is an awesome Pokemon. But yeah, like I've really struggled with me slot 1 pick. I've been trying to slot in like a grass in there, but yeah, I like the idea of Victini after Jan has sold it to me, so it could be a decent little combo there.
The cat is officially out of the bag and on Lewis.
No, well, Lewis is off, yeah.
Yeah, risky mon. You need to get a couple of Psycho Cuts advantage. Everyone forgets about Psycho Cut, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, the other move's Peck, so you definitely don't want to be doing it. Well, I'm sure Jan will tell me if it's something with pet. But...
It beats Vigoroth. It beats Machamp. It beats Machamp.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I really enjoyed using it. It's dead versatile and it's shield pressures.
So it loses to some of the ghosts in like a flat standing start.
Yeah.
So, like we said, coughing everywhere. When I say coughing, I mean Coffee Grigris or Will Griggs. I can't say Coffee Grigris. I don't know. Will Griggs, I'm calling him. So the Coffee Grag, yeah. Oh, this cancer reach you all over again. The coffin. I think coughing is clearly viable this month. Coffin and Vig everywhere.
Yeah.
And Sableye. Do you need an advantage?
Well, for them,
a couple of fast moves.
Well, for them, if you're locked in there, you're just not shielded. You're gonna you don't
get a shield advantage.
You don't outpace the Vig, but you've got superpower, and you're gonna, you know what I mean. So it's like, well, they've got a shield, and then the same for your Coffin and your Sableye. The foul plays are still dealing chunks, whereas their moves are neutral. So it's just like a give and take there. You're just sort of hoping that they're gonna blink first and shield. But then, at the same time, if you get your Psycho Cut advantage, then you're laughing.
I've still not made one. Something about my phone not being able to turn upside down without it being on battery saving mode or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think I've got a decent rank in K.
Yeah.
I was trying to do. I think it's on Brewers of bloopers from a few months ago. My Inkay impression, which is not as infamous as Sudowoodo. But yeah, Malamar.
Yeah, so it's suction cups over crab hammer this month. Could do with some suction cups on my nipple at the minute.
And most popular thing on Netflix at the moment, Squid Game.
Squid Games. See, that was it. It was the inspiration.
It's Squid Game time, isn't it? You see. There you go, everybody. Netflix paving the way for the Brewer Cup.
Yeah. So next month when Witches are back, I'll be picking something for that.
So there's me trying to get him sponsored by Netflix now. Any final thoughts on Malamar? Anyone actually used it besides Jay?
Sadly not.
What a surprise!
It's a mon that I want to love, but for me, maybe that's more indicative of the teams. It feels like there's like you say, there's some of those matchups that you feel like you should win that you just which can be sometimes really frustrating. Sometimes there's those key matchups. I think it's really interesting, and like it's one of those picks that's going to throw people, because it's like, what the hell does this do, right?
I think it's the surprise.
Exactly. I think that I was kind of perhaps like I was always kind of a bit, which always hurt the most was that it just felt like some of those more neutral hits. Like it's got the great type it like Psychic Dark is brilliant. But like those, like when you get hit by resisted moves, it's fantastic. But when you kind of got those more neutral moves, it feels like it hurts a bit too much sometimes, especially with that debuffing superpower. But if you play it like, you get a shield advantage, and at that point it doesn't really matter, does it? So I think maybe I just played it wrong in that case. So it's interesting. It was fun playing against yours, Jay.
Yeah, I mean it takes a bit of getting used to, but I plan on making it work. I made fucking Crawdon work.
Crawdon is good.
Well, I forgot it was even in this cup,
and it walls Victini.
The rise of Pokemon this month.
Every bastard's going to be using it right now. I'll be running Charm next.
No way.
Anyway.
Shall we move on to the final pick? which was literally just decided minutes before I created a Zoom account before we got onto this call.
And there was one.
Okay, so the heaviest of them all had to be me, you know, the big obese man that I am. Slot number 6. Do you know, to be fair, I've lost a bit of weight. I've got into running recently. Spock will comment. Spock will put in the comment section below that I've been running.
You see it in your face. That's not around.
It's not as round. You're right. Yeah, you go back to Suddo Wooddo Cup, like season 2, and you'll see. So yeah, Heavy Lad's gone for Heavy Lad Pokédex number 208. I've not looked up its weight, but it is a heavy weight. And when I mean a proper heavyweight, I mean like OG tank.
Yeah,
so 208.
It's gotta be like a ton.
Yeah, it's got to be Steelix. I've always had a soft spot for Steelix. Sinister Cup, Toxic. It's quite fitting that me hosting on Matthew's channel gets to talk about Steelix in the same sentence as Pidgeot when I destroyed him at Leeds Toxic Cup with my Steelix walling his Pidgeot. So very fitting. I love a good story. He clearly he's over it. But I remind him of it every time. Clearly I'm not. I love it. It was a good day. It was a 5-1. It was a 5-1.
I remember getting the text. Like it was great. Getting the update.
Poor Lewis had Ryan in round 3 or round 4? You had V10 in round 3 or round 4. So poor Lewis was doing well, and then all of a sudden he's got V10, and V10's lost one to get to Lewis. But yeah, I took some names. You know what I mean? Little old me took some names that day.
Who was it? Noz.
It was Noz round 2. It was Stu Rowe round 1, but it was Leo. It was Leo.
Yeah,
Azure. Round 3. It was Matthew himself in per number 1, round 4. And he was on his comfy couch, he knew what he was doing, all the nasty couches with the low purrs, and then per 1, he knew, biggest ranking going in, he wasn't going to move from couch number 1. And then I beat him. I was on that couch. It was great. And then I got 3-0 by Rodri.
I was going to say, didn't I?
Because that wonderful Heracross destroying my Wormadam trash. It was a thing of beauty. But then I got one over Azubikachu. So, at the time, 4 elite standards.
Yeah, I was going to say that all awesome.
In one day. Doesn't get better than that.
Anyway,
anyway, yeah, so Steelix, Pidgeot, not Toxic Cup. We're talking the Brewer Cup. Thanks for the memory, Matthew. Yes, so heavy weight. It's good. Dragon Tail obviously had the buff recently. Crunch had the buff recently with that potential, is it defense drop? What we're talking, 30%, 50%, 10%, depending who's you're battling against or who's battling against you.
Yeah, it depends who's you, doesn't it?
It works 60% of the time, 100% of the time, doesn't it? Like that that Sex Panther spray. So yeah, and of course, Earthquake. Yeah. So from really practice, pretty good. Obviously, counter users are everywhere. All right, fair plays, fair dues. But Dragon Tail, very oppressive. Crunch, Vigoroth doesn't want to take a crunch. But yes, Obstagoon, Machamp. Wishcash, Stunfisk, you've got to be aware about. But besides that, it's pretty good everywhere else. I don't know. You know me. I'm not exactly a stats guy, but just from feel, I am a stats guy. I know. I've just not done my homework because I've literally just picked it up this second. I think it fits a role. So those anti-fighters you're going to be bringing to beat your fighters, I know it's fallen into the RPS a little bit, but of all the tanks, I think it's up there with Lapras. So I think it definitely has a role to play. Yeah, even Wishcash, If you've just farmed something down and you get your first crunch and defense drop, second crunch is shielding. There's play. I mean, I've not done as much as you guys in terms of practice battles, but from what I have done, it's probably been the most popular mon of my current 6. So yeah,
I mean, it is a tanky boy, like.
Yeah.
And Earthquake's decently. The only sort of thing that I've got, like the reservation, I guess, that I've got about it is because I just have a horrible feeling that Charm is going to be on most people's teams.
I knew this was coming.
It's the steel type that doesn't beat the Charmers.
It's the steel type that doesn't beat the Charmers, yes. Dragon Tail's resisted, and of course, Dark Move Crunch is resisted, yeah. It is that.
So,
and that's why you run poison. And that's why you use poison types, isn't that right, Jan? Yeah.
Oh no, I can make Steelix beat the fairies.
Oh yeah, let's just run Heavy Slam.
Heavy Slam.
How about I give you a different role for it? It has many of the same wins, but obviously some very different ones. Give consideration to Thunderfang.
Thunderfang was I was going to say that.
Let's do this.
Whimsicott though.
Thunderfang beats Whimsicott.
What?
Yep.
Smashed it.
Straight crunch.
Let's find out.
Straight heavy.
No,
straight heavy slam.
This is running Thunderfang, Crunch, Earthquake. You just run. You throw the crunch, and you just keep going.
That's madness. It sounds like I planned it.
Thunderfang, Steelix beats Whimsicott in all even shield scenarios.
That's brilliant.
So, again, it's one of those things that I would say, like, you know, with wing attack, turning the different types of moves that you might move on Victini. It's actually you know, you talk about RPS, but there's actually, I think there is some viability for Steelix to have some kind of like level of utility moners again, but it can deal with very different sets of problems depending on what move you want to run in that sense. Because for example, you pick up all the fairies by going Thunderfang. You drop some grasses, you drop, not all of them. Interestingly, obviously you pick up things like Pelipper. Thunderfang gets a narrow win over Melmetal, which is I think is a pretty good one for that steal, because I think Melmetal's actually a pretty. If people aren't thinking about it at the moment, I think they should do, because it's a pretty big pick there. I think beats Lapras. Lapras is pretty popular in that 6th slot.
Yeah,
Mantime. Ferrothorn you can win out of over, which Dragon Tail doesn't do. If Ferrothorn decides to be a big one.
Fascinating.
So to be fair, I haven't used Thunderfang. I don't think ever. So what's the energy generation on it? Because obviously I know that Dragon Tail got the buff for damage, but like there must be a decent energy generation on Thunderfang in comparison, because the damage output.
I always thought it was
the way around. I thought.
So it's 7 damage and 5 energy. So it takes 7 Thunderfangs to get to the crunch. But a lot of your work you're just doing by throwing crunches and then just keep Thunderfanging. So like
how many Dragon
Is it a 3-turn? Is it a 3-turn move?
Thunderfang's 2, Dragon Tail
2.
So it's 40. So there's 14 turns. 7 Thunderfangs, 14 turns. So it's 1 turn faster.
So it's fairly simple in terms of timing.
Yeah. Just thinking though, it's only because of obviously the Thunderfangs resisted against like the grasses, but it's still picking up some of the grasses and whatever. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's again, I think it's one of those things. I don't know, it's necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's what you want Steelix to do. I think it's one of those ones that I always.
And Thunderfang blinds your opponent as well on the screen, like tapping like all them epileptics out there, and like, get out.
Oh god.
Right. Well, here's a challenge for you, Jan. Right. So let's go back to let's say, because me being Karma guy as opposed to you guys being your Vindaloos, let's say we go back to Dragon Tail. How close is Vigoroth? Because I know Vigoroth's got Body Slam, resisted by the Steel types.
Vig, you just get absolutely annihilated. Like it's a battle range.
All the way down.
281. It could probably just straight count. Actually, no, I've had that match, but I just basically straight countered until I don't think I even shielded until it was like, oh, I might die with all this energy, so I threw a Body Slam just to finish it off.
Right.
So yeah, it's not pretty. Dragon Tail obviously does chunk, but it's not fun in the slightest.
Right. So what I've found, like how to use it, this is probably the best thing I can offer because I'm not really a strategy guy. I'm more of a feel guy. What I've found is something that you can say farm down with your Dragon Tail to then throw in a bunch of crunches or even that massive earthquake. I think that's the way to go about it. So picking up the extra energy might flip a Vig in ones or zeros maybe, but we're talking a lot. We're talking about 3 or 4, I'm guessing.
You need 4 because it's 10 turns.
4.
So, which is a bit of a shame. But also, if you're aware of that and you say like, I just need to make sure that I come out of this matchup with four Dragon Tails at the end of it, like it's not unreasonable. Some of the things that you could possibly line Steelix up. I mean, obviously. Bit of a different story if you're switching Steelix as a safe swap, but I mean that might be a slightly dubious thing to do in this particular meta. But it's one of those things. If you know that's probably going to be a common matchup because Big is everywhere. As long as you're aware of that's what you need, like, oh, I need to make sure I get this many ahead, or I mean that might even change if you get that probably change if you get the defense debuff as well, because then you're just going to be doing extra damage with your Dragon Tails and more pressure, right? So perhaps not as terrible, but I mean, if it does, you rely.
I think so far, Wishcash has been more of an issue than Vig and counter users. Only because I've been kind of like drawing out counter users with my proper safe swap, perhaps. And then, oh look, there's Steelix as a closer, and the counter users out of the way. But yeah, Wishcash being a tanky boy, and that's the thing that's left over. That's more of an issue. So what grass types could we use?
I don't know what you're thinking of at all.
There are no grass types. No, pay no attention to the crazy guys. Grass types. No, shh. Grass types. Don't think.
I thought Meganium's pretty good.
Yeah. Venusaur's good. Yeah. Well, this is just it. If you're weak to fighting, yeah, and of course you're weak to your ground types, grass for the ground types, and of course poison. Hey, Venusaur's a thing, right? Isn't it?
Venusaur's always strong in whatever meta that you put together, though. Like it's just a solid performer. I'm
surprised it's been overlooked. Like it has been pretty much overlooked. I mean, I've got like three different teams built at the minute, and it's in my first team, if you like, but yeah, I think
Venus is slot 5, and slot 5, you can see why Matchamp's been so popular because everything else, it's not that impressive.
Like, yeah, my first build with slot 5, I was running Goodra. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Goodra, but I've looked at it, so Goodra's actually really underwhelming here in terms of like there are better Dragon Breath users, and yeah, even it's not the kind of meta where the charge moves are really meaningful here. There's been some metas where like Muddy Water Bait is actually kind of useful, and the Power Whip on a dragon is pretty awesome. But here, you're back in the corner, so I was like, that's a silly thing to do. And there's not much else I've really thought about from there. Like, yeah, Machamp's big, but yeah, Venusaur's a pretty big pick there as well. What else is there? Like, maybe
people might go for the tank there. They might go for the Magnezone there. And then maybe have a flyer slot 6.
Yeah, true.
Stop building me team, so. Fucking hell.
What other bit? I mean, this is the thing. Like, there's some slots where I'm thinking I'm not sure what to pick because it just seems so underwhelming. And then there's other ones where I'm just like, I want this and this, right? But I guess that's maybe that's the beauty of this meta.
I think I've been like that with slot 4. Like, I found quite a few things in slot 4 which are just desperate to use, and it's just so annoying. Like, I'm convinced. Don't know why. I'm just convinced Charizard could be really good in this. I know, you're laughing, but I just.
Which one?
Wing.
I lost on Wing Attack.
Wing Attack is pretty.
Dragon Breath.
No.
Yeah. But I mean, you don't have to look it up. I was just saying, just stick.
No. I know the different Charizard matchups from looking at it myself. So I really like Wing Attack on Zard. Just generally speaking, I think it's actually probably the best one that you can get it. Generally speaking, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah, I was gonna say. But yeah, so Steelix anyway.
Has anyone else got any thoughts on Steelix? I mean, I've got a closing question regarding this cup. Full stop. Otherwise, if anyone's got anything on Steelix first.
No, go for it.
I'm tempted by the Thunder fan.
Big Steely Snake is good. Me like.
Yeah, I think because it's been around for so long, I think people should have one and should be familiar with it. So I'm just throwing it out there, and that's why I'm not coming out with stats or anything like that. But from first impressions and first feel, it definitely has a role to play. Thunderfang beating Whimsicott is fascinating.
And you also get incredibly close to Talonflame as well. You still lose, but it's not nearly as bad as Dragon Tail, put it that way.
Dragon Tail. Mm-hmm.
So you can. I think it's arguably a flippable matchup.
Timing is everything, though, with Talonflame.
Timing is everything on both sides.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, you were talking about Talonflame before it got good. I mean, sorry, before it got incinerated.
Yeah, look how that came in the ass.
Right, so the big thing that's come up for me, the reason I looked for Steelix or something like Steelix was the dark move. Coffin. I'm not even going to pretend to say. Yes, that one. Will Griggs, right? Everywhere. Sableye, everywhere. So I'm looking for either a dark type or a dark type move. Like what can we use to be, these ghost types, these or potentially ghost and Vig, ghost and other dark types. What are our thoughts there? Any picks coming out?
I had to look at Amok. I was quite interested in trying that.
Amok and Shiftry, I was looking at.
Shiftry is pretty cool. Everyone should have one of those by now, and how spammy it is. Don't go sleeping on Drapion. I think Poison Sting.
Poison Sting, it's ridiculous.
Same.
Yeah.
Go double nuke.
So under the radar. Even though it was big in Halloween Cup as well in GBL, and even in regular Great League and Ultra.
I think it's a huge pick, to be honest.
Drapion's so good. I'm just so surprised that Matthew hasn't pushed it.
Does that know what I'm picking?
Probably just doesn't know how to use it, so it's fine.
Lovely. Yeah, so I think we've had enough shade on Matthew Brawler's channel, chatting Brew Cup again. But yeah, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I mean, the reason I've asked you three here, I would love to have everyone on. I would have happily have had Callum on, but he was on the other night with Matthew. I would have happily have had Jake on, because I think Jake's a fantastic addition to the team. And of course, Jordan, Alex, and who else we got? Andy. Andy's great. I really like Andy. So yeah, gym division, man. I'm telling you, we're coming there slowly but surely. We're going to chip up the leaderboard. Silph, you've seen me in your Discord saying many things like, "Are you sure we should be down in this league?" But hey ho, we're there to prove you wrong. Yeah, I'm just gonna flash my badge. You know, Matthew's got his swords, but I've got a T-shirt that we've printed at a cheap price. That says my name on it. So
I was just going to say also, you know, we represent Gym Division tonight. So everyone watching, don't forget to go and follow us on Twitter at Gym Division. That's Jim with a JYM, by the way. Check us out for hot content in the upcoming factions, current open round or whatever it is. We're just here to crush and take names. Just watch out for us, yeah.
But we are friendly, we're nice, and of course communication is key. And if of course you do face us, please just reply. That's all we ask.
And we did mention sponsors before, so we need to think of some sponsors as well. If you want to sponsor the Gym Division, as well. We're good for anything.
Some of us get into stream, we can put your brand on stream, get your name out there if you're up and coming. You know, we're all about bringing up grassroots companies.
This is not about Matthew Brawler's channel anymore, by the way.
No. Gym Division takeover, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know in like the baseball games, Catch of the Day was sponsored by Green Orchard's Pies.
Well, Jake before, he would have had a few of them Catch of the Day.
Catch of the Day, sponsored by Red Bull. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Should literally have.
We need that.
There should have insert Jake's catch right now, and that would be amazing.
It was filthy, absolutely filthy. Yeah. So yeah, good start, match one, but a long way to go.
Guys, if you guys want to see that filthy catch, because Brawler's probably not going to put it in here. Follow us on Twitter and we'll post it there. So you know, come and check us out.
Yeah, and if we do face off, good luck, have fun, but not too much luck because we need it. Lovely speaking, guys. Lovely speaking. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for not taking the mick out of the fact that I can't say coffin. Yeah, the coffin. So yeah, thank you for not making fun of me. And why can't I go one of these without saying something wrong? At least I didn't say anything inappropriate this time. At least I'm wearing all my clothes. At least I'm not stroking my pussy. And at least I'm clean shaven. I can't say anything bad about you, Jan. You're just bloody gorgeous. You're like Jesus. Like Jesus, isn't he? He's like Jesus incarnate.
You're too kind. I'm now blushing. I now need to leave the room.
All right. See him leave.
I'm going to be slipping in your DMs later, Jan. Jay, don't get jealous, mate. Don't get jealous.
That's why Jay's got his shirt off.
Yeah.
It's like he's keeping me interested with his nipples, right? That's what it is.
Getting some nipple play on the go.
Right, Matthew's going to love editing this. So I want to say thank you very much for the three of you for joining. Thank you very much for joining us and lasting this long. And best of luck with the Brewer Cup this month. Yeah, enjoy. Thanks for joining us. Cheers, everyone.
Take care.
See you later.
Cheers. See you, everyone.